Hello, and welcome to KeyLang Daily News for January 6, 2026. I'm bringing you today's most important global developments. Here are the 20 stories shaping our world today. News 1. U.S. faces global criticism over Venezuela military operation. The United States encountered widespread condemnation at an emergency UN Security Council meeting following military strikes on Venezuela. Multiple countries including Brazil, China, Russia, and Spain denounced the operation that resulted in the capture of President Nicolas Maduro. The U.S. defended the action as law enforcement against what it called an illegitimate leader. News 2. Death toll rises to 80 in Venezuela operation. Cuba reports 32 casualties. At least 80 people were killed during the U.S. military operation in Venezuela, according to media reports. Cuba announced that 32 of its citizens died in the strikes, describing them as military and intelligence personnel providing security. The Cuban government declared 2 days of national mourning following the incident. News 3. Venezuelan interim leader offers cooperation with U.S. administration. Acting President Delcy Rodriguez expressed willingness to collaborate with the Trump administration following her swearing-in ceremony. This came after President Trump warned her to do what is right or face consequences. Rodriguez called for cooperation within the framework of international law while previously describing the operation as having certain political undertones. News 4. Ukraine appoints Canada's former deputy PM as economic advisor. President Volodymyr Zelensky named Chrystia Freeland, Canada's former deputy prime minister, as his economic development advisor. Zelensky cited her experience in attracting investment and implementing economic transformations. The appointment aims to strengthen Ukraine's internal resilience during ongoing conflict and potential diplomatic developments. News 5. Trump warns Colombian president over drug trafficking allegations. President Trump criticized Colombian President Gustavo Petro, making allegations about drug trafficking activities. When asked about potential military action similar to Venezuela, Trump responded positively. Petro rejected the accusations and called on Latin American people to demonstrate, while defending his background in armed struggle and peace efforts. News 6. Tim Walz ends Minnesota governor re-election bid citing federal investigation. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz announced he would not seek a third term as governor. Walz, who was the Democratic vice presidential candidate in 2024, cited the need to focus on a federal fraud investigation into state child care programs. He expressed confidence he could win but said he could not devote necessary energy to the campaign. News 7. Italy closes investigation into DeepSeek after AI safety commitments. Italian authorities ended their probe into Chinese AI company DeepSeek following commitments to warn users about artificial intelligence risks. The investigation focused on potential issues with AI-generated content accuracy. DeepSeek agreed to implement warning systems about AI hallucination risks to satisfy regulatory concerns. News 8. UNICEF warns of rising child sexual violence in DRC displacement camp. UNICEF reported alarming levels of sexual violence against children at the Rue displacement camp in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The organization attributed the situation to prolonged conflict and insecurity devastating civilian populations. The warning highlights deteriorating humanitarian conditions in the region's ongoing crisis. News 9. Egypt and Saudi Arabia declare identical positions on regional conflicts. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan announced their countries share identical positions on Yemen, Sudan, and Somaliland. The meeting emphasized commitment to peaceful solutions and preserving territorial integrity. The alignment comes amid reported tensions between Saudi Arabia and UAE over regional issues. News 10. Saudi-backed forces clash with UAE-supported group in Yemen. Saudi-backed tribal fighters forced the Southern Transitional Council to withdraw from Mukalla city in eastern Yemen. Saudi Arabia reportedly conducted airstrikes on STC positions while forces launched an offensive to reclaim territory. The incident highlights ongoing tensions between Saudi Arabia and UAE over competing interests in Yemen. News 11. Multiple Latin American countries condemn U.S. Venezuela intervention. Spain, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Uruguay issued a joint statement calling U.S. actions in Venezuela an extremely dangerous precedent. The countries expressed concern about threats to regional security and civilian populations. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez said Spain would not recognize interventions violating international law. News 12. French court convicts 10 for cyberbullying president's wife. A Paris court found 10 individuals guilty of malicious cyberbullying targeting Brigitte Macron, wife of French President Emmanuel Macron. The court determined the defendants engaged in coordinated harassment campaigns against the First Lady. The case highlights growing concerns about online harassment of public figures and their families. News 13. Taiwan reports 2.6 million daily cyberattacks from China in 2025. Taiwan's government reported an average of 2.6 million cyberattacks per day from China throughout 2025, according to official data. Taiwan describes these incidents as part of Beijing's hybrid warfare strategy. The attacks targeted infrastructure systems amid increasing military and political pressure from mainland China. News 14. Trump claims he predicted 9/11 attacks in earlier book. President Trump repeated claims that he predicted the September 11th attacks in his 2000 book and warned about Osama bin Laden. He stated that thousands of lives could have been saved if officials had listened to his warnings. However, fact-checkers note that bin Laden was mentioned only briefly in the book as a minor figure. News 15. Amnesty International accuses Uganda of torture before elections. Amnesty International accused Ugandan security forces of torture and arbitrary arrests ahead of January 15 elections. The human rights organization documented systematic abuse targeting opposition supporters and civil society members. The allegations raise concerns about electoral fairness as Uganda approaches its national voting process. News 16. Trump announces U.S. oil companies to enter Venezuelan market. President Trump stated that American oil companies would move into Venezuela and begin generating revenue for the country. Trump emphasized Venezuela's significant oil reserves, describing them as previously stolen American property. The announcement came as the U.S. administration outlined plans to run Venezuela during a transitional period. News 17. Social media users compare Maduro capture to Netanyahu case. Online discussions compared the capture of Venezuelan President Maduro to the treatment of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, who faces an International Criminal Court arrest warrant. Users criticized what they described as selective application of international law. The comparisons highlighted debates about consistency in addressing alleged international crimes. News 18. China strongly condemns U.S. military action against Venezuela. Chinese officials expressed deep shock and strong condemnation of U.S. military force against Venezuela, calling it reckless action against a sovereign state. Beijing criticized the targeting of Venezuela's president and the broader implications for international relations. The statement reflects growing tensions between major powers over sovereignty principles. News 19. Venezuela Supreme Court orders interim president to ensure continuity. Venezuela's Supreme Court ordered Vice President Delcy Rodriguez to assume acting president duties to ensure administrative continuity. The court action came as former President Maduro remained detained in New York awaiting arraignment. The move aimed to demonstrate governmental functioning despite the leadership change. News 20. UN rapporteur calls Venezuela operation lethal blow to international law. UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese described the U.S. military operation in Venezuela as a lethal blow to international law. Her comments joined criticism from other international legal experts questioning the precedent set by the action. The statements reflect broader concerns about the erosion of established international legal frameworks. That's all for today's world news. These stories remind us how quickly global situations can develop and the importance of understanding multiple perspectives. Thank you for staying informed with KeyLang Daily News. I'll see you tomorrow with more updates from around the world.